Welcome, everybody. We are here on Rocking at the Movies. We have a guest from South Africa originally. His name is Daniel Bonjour, and he is overseas in the States, and he is making a career in the movie industry. So it's quite an inspiration to have someone that is homegrown being able to make it in the States like we all wish we could. So welcome, Daniel. Welcome to our channel,
Thank
and
you.
I'm so glad that you are able to give us some time to chat.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Only a pleasure. So just to briefly go on a bit of your history or what have you've done so far in the past. Looking at your profile, it looks like you've done a lot of voiceovers for video games, for example, like Hitman. Is that correct?
Yeah, voiceovers I got started in, funny enough, because they needed South African accents,
Oh, really?
and so that was one time we spoke earlier about how I've switched my accent around many times, and with the South African, that was the one time where I went in full South African, and I was like, yeah, like this is my normal accent, that sort of thing, and
There we go.
um, I changed my voicemail and everything because voiceover is can be hard to break into because you're not limited to your look or anything. So they have their people and they know their range and they don't need new people. And
Yeah.
so I got in with my South African accent and then started working, my way out and saying, hey, I can also do an American accent and I can do these other things
Okay.
and so
Being quite
slowly started
diverse.
spreading. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and then what other games have you been in? Because it looks like you've been in, for example, like Final Fantasy. You've done that one as well, and Hitman.
Yeah, Final Fantasy. I've done Life is Strange was like a cult classic kind of indie game that did really well.
Hmm.
What else? I've done a couple because not everything shows up on IMDb. It's one of those things. It's funny. Video games is sometimes they're so secretive you don't know the game you're working on,
Yeah.
and so you just kind of go in with a character and you go through it, and they won't ever tell you exactly what it is.
So you've done
And
stuff
I'm
that you
not
don't even know.
huge. Yes, and I'm not a huge gamer, so I'm not necessarily researching what this project's going to be or keeping up with it. And sometimes they'll send me some games, and I'm like, "Oh, that was that. Oh, that's cool."
Nice. At least now
So
you know.
it's fun. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect. And when did you actually get started in the whole voiceovers and the movie industry? Was it originally in South Africa with the movies as well, or was it
It
overseas
was
now?
it was in South Africa. I started at a very young age. My parents were not thrilled about it, and I did a couple commercials and the first movie I got was this American film, and I happened to be able to do an American accent at the time.
Hmm.
And my mom drove me to the audition, and I remember I got the call back, and she didn't tell me for a long time. I overheard her telling her friend because she was like, I don't want him to get his hopes up because it's such a tough industry. And then I ended up getting that movie, and kind of started there. And then shortly after, we moved to the States, and it was like starting all over again because I didn't know anybody. And so my parents said, you know what, just focus on school, go that route. So I went, I did high school and college in the States, and they were like, if you still love it after that, we'll support you. And I went to school for finance and computer programming because I thought if I can get into something that's if I can fall in love with something other than acting, I know my life's going to be a lot easier because
Yeah,
acting is not easy.
it's not it.
And I did internships with like brokerage firms, and I was down that path. And I was working one day at Smith Barney, which is this financial brokerage firm, and I
Mhm.
was like, I can't do this. It's just not me. And so I packed up my things and drove down to LA and started working at a cheesecake factory,
Okay,
and
just to
started auditioning. And I had nothing. I didn't know anybody, and it's a grind. It's just like you almost have to admit that you're a little crazy to
yeah.
take it on because there's this cavern in front of you and you're willing to step off and say what happens. And it's always like that. I mean, it never ends. I mean, I'm still feel that way. This like depending where you are in your career, you think at some point that fear goes away or you're set or something, and it's not. I mean, look, we're in coronavirus now, and
Yeah,
LA
which
is
is even
completely
worse.
shut down, and so it's never ending fear, and so you just have to accept that you're doing something you love, and that's kind of what I've been going off of, and it's
Well,
how
I
it goes.
completely respect where you're coming from, and I know exactly where you're coming from, especially in this coronavirus issue.
Yeah,
Here in South Africa, we're still on lockdown. We are
yeah,
going on to what, 7 months? I think it is. It's insane. Um, you right there?
Yeah, sorry.
No problem. So yeah, we're going on to about 7 months, which is quite crazy. And strange enough, this whole radio show and the YouTube channel itself has all come about from this virus. So I'm going to say it's a good thing, but at the same time, it's not
Yeah,
always the best. Okay,
right.
the situation is not the best. But what do you mean by it being a grind? Because it's so difficult. I'm trying to get hold of any actors or personalities, and it's challenging. I must say, it's quite challenging.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. But that's life. I mean, from what I found is I mean, I've done everything. I mean, I remember I've worked in every industry. Obviously, in the beginning of my career, it was to make ends meet. But even
mm,
before that, it was just to try different things. And anywhere you step, it's not easy. You know,
yeah,
you can be in any industry, and it's going to be hard. It's just a question of what industry are you willing to put the work in. And yeah, there's some that are more secure and others. But I've got plenty of friends from college that did finance, and they financially they're great, but then internally they're like, I don't know if I what I'm doing with my life because I don't know if I love it. And on the other end, they've loved it and done jobs that seem secure, and then that company fades, and then they feel lost again. So I think it's that's just like a life lesson, is that you have to convince yourself that you're going to work hard. There's no shortcut to anything. And what do you want to put the work into? And
most
hopefully you enjoy
definitely,
it.
most
Yeah.
definitely. It's always going to be like that.